The lawyer's voice cut through the stale air of the old Victorian parlor like a dull knife, each word slicing deeper into Matthew's chest. To my son, Matthew James Harlan, I bequeath $1 on account of his chosen lifestyle. Gasps rippled around the room. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His sister's eyes widened in horror, but Matthew just sat there. The weight of 28 years crashing down in that single, poisoned sentence. In that frozen heartbeat. He wondered if his father had ever truly seen him at all, or if the man who'd built a life of quiet Midwestern stoicism had buried his love deeper than any grave. Matthew Harlan had always known his father measured love in silences, the kind that stretched across dinner tables in their modest ranch house on the outskirts of Elmwood, Kansas. Richard Harlan was a man forged in the fields, broad-shouldered, calloused hands from decades tending corn and soybeans, his face etched with lines from squinting into endless sunrises. He'd vote Republican, attend the same Baptist church every Sunday, and fix the truck before breakfast without complaint. To the town, he was the rock of Harlan Farms, a widower who'd raised 3 kids after Matthew's mother, Clara, softened the edges of their world until cancer stole her away 10 years back. But to Matthew, those silences were walls, built higher each time he dared to test them. It started small, those tests. At 12, Matthew had lingered too long watching the neighbor boy, Tommy, toss a football in the summer heat, sweat glistening on his tan skin like some forbidden invitation. Richard caught him once, mid-stare, and the air thickened. Eyes on your own game, son, he'd grunted, clapping a heavy hand on Matthew's shoulder hard enough to bruise pride more than flesh. Matthew learned quick swallow it down. Play the part. High school blurred into a haze of stolen glances in locker rooms. Poetry scribbled in margins about waves crashing against unyielding shores, and nights staring at the ceiling fan, willing his heart to straighten like the rows of corn outside. By 18, the pressure cooker whistled. College at Kansas State was supposed to be escape, but Elmwood's roots clung like burrs. Matthew majored in agronomy, same as Dad, because dreams of art school in Chicago felt like betrayal. That's where he met Ethan, in a freshman lit class dissecting Walt Whitman. Ethan was everything Matthew wasn't. Bold, with a laugh that filled rooms and a rainbow pin on his backpack that screamed defiance. Their first kiss happened behind the Union Building, rain-soaked and urgent, Ethan's fingers threading through Matthew's hair as if unraveling years of knots. "You're safe here," Ethan whispered, and for a moment, Matthew believed it. But safety was a lie Elmwood told itself. Over Christmas break, Matthew cracked. Dinner that night was pot roast. The good china out because Aunt Lydia was visiting from Wichita. The wine flowed looser than usual, loosening tongues too. Clara still alive then. Her chemo-ravaged frame propped in her armchair squeezed Matthew's knee under the table, her eyes pleading for peace. But Richard's latest sermon echo from church that morning, about sins of the flesh, lit the fuse. "Dad," Matthew said, voice steady as he could make it, "I'm gay." The fork clattered. Richard's face went the color of storm clouds, veins bulging at his temples. "What the hell did you just say?" The room spun into chaos, Aunt Lydia muttering prayers, Sister Emily frozen with her 10-year-old innocence shattering. Clara wept silently. But Richard exploded. "This ain't our boy. This is some college poison. You fix this, Matthew, or you ain't welcome under this roof." The dollar amount wasn't mentioned then, but the exile was immediate. Matthew fled to the guest room, packing a duffel in the dark, Ethan's texts lighting up his phone like distant stars. By dawn, he was gone, back to Manhattan, the only home that didn't demand he lie. Years piled on like unpaid debts. Matthew graduated, landed a job at a co-op in Topeka, analyzing soil samples for yields that fed the heartland but starved his soul. Ethan fizzled out too young, too reckless. Their love was fireworks, bright but brief. Matthew dated sparingly, each man a lesson. The accountant who hid him from his Bible study group, the artist who painted their nights in vivid strokes but vanished when commitment loomed. Loneliness became a companion, softer than rejection but no less heavy. He called Clara weekly, her voice a lifeline across the miles, whispering, "Your father's just scared. Baby. He loves you fierce, even if you don't know how to show it." Emily sent postcards from her nursing school in Wichita, doodles of hearts with arrows through them. A quiet rebellion. Richard's stroke came out of nowhere. Summer of 24. Matthew got the call at 2 a.m. Emily's voice cracking. "He's gone. Matt." Heart gave out. The funeral was a blur of black suits and casseroles. Elmwood wrapping its arms around the Harlans like it could stitch the wounds. Matthew flew in from Topeka, rented a car that smelled of new leather and regret. The church pews creaked under the weight of neighbors who'd known him as the quiet kid with the sketchbook, now eyeing him with whispers. "Heard he lives that way now." Clara clung to his arm, her frailty a mirror to his own hidden fractures. The reading of the will happened 2 days later, in that same parlor where Richard had proposed to Clara 40 years prior. The lawyer, Mr. Silver-haired, spectacles perched like a judge's gavel, enrolled the document with ceremony. To Emily, the house and half the farm. To Clara, the savings. A modest nest egg. And then, the bomb. To Matthew, $1. The room erupted. Emily sobbed. "Daddy." "No." Clara's hand trembled in Matthew's, her rings cold against his skin. "Mr. Ellis cleared his throat, awkward as a confessor. "There's more. Folks. Mr. Harlan left a video message. For the family. But addressed to Matthew primarily." Matthew's pulse thundered. A video. Richard, who barely used email, leaving pixels of his soul. The lawyer set up the old projector on the coffee table, the screen flickering to life like a ghost rising. There sat Richard, in his flannel shirt, filmed in the barn last fall. Hay bales stacked behind him like unspoken apologies. His eyes, those steel blue eyes that had once chased Matthew's fears away with a single nod, were softer now, rimmed with the red of unshed tears. "Matthew," Richard began, voice gravelly but steady. "If you're seeing this, I'm gone. And God help me. Boy, I got things to say I should have said when you were knee-high." The family leaned in. Breaths held. Matthew's throat closed, the dollar burning a hole in his pocket where Mr. Ellis had pressed it earlier, a crisp George Washington, mocking in its innocence. "You remember that summer you were 12? The one with Tommy next door?" Richard paused, rubbing his jaw like he did when mending fences. "I saw you watching him. Didn't know what it meant then, but I knew it scared you. Scared me too. My old Minnie, our grandpa, beat the devil out of me for less. Back when boys like us hid in barns to hold hands. I swore I'd never let that poison touch you. But I did worse. I built walls instead of bridges." Clara gasped softly, her free hand pressing to her chest. Emily wiped her eyes, glancing at Matthew with dawning horror. The video rolled on, Richard's face crumpling. "When you came out that Christmas." Christ. Matt. It gutted me. Not because of who you love, but because I saw my failures staring back. I was raised to think it was wrong. A choice. A sin. But you're my blood. My boy who drew those sunsets that made your ma cry happy tears. I pushed you away to protect you from the town. From me. Thought if I made it hurt enough, you'd change. Stupid old fool." Matthew's vision blurred, hot tears tracing paths down his cheeks. The dollar crumpled in his fist now. No longer a slap, but a key turning in a rusted lock. That dollar. It's all I can give without the lawyers tying it up in trusts and taxes. But it's everything. Son. It's me saying you're my heir. Same as M. Legally. It makes you equal, proves you're Harlan through and through. No disowning. No shame. And the farm. Half's yours too. If you want it. But more than land. I want you to know. I love you. Always have. Wish I'd hugged you tighter. Said it louder. Forgive an old man his cowardice. The screen went black. Silence crashed in. Heavier than any storm. Clara pulled Matthew close. Her sobs mingling with his. Emily flung herself across the space between them. Arms wrapping around both. He loved you. Matt. He did. Mister. Ellis nodded solemnly. Sliding over another envelope, deed papers. Farm shares. All in Matthew's name. In that moment, the parlor didn't feel like a tomb anymore. It felt like homecoming. But forgiveness wasn't a switch flipped in a video's glow. It was a seed. Stubborn and slow to root in parched soil. Matthew spent the next days in Elmwood like a ghost haunting his own life. Wandering the farm's creaking porches while Clara dozed in her rocker. Emily, bustling with funeral leftovers, turned into meals for neighbors. The dollar stayed in his pocket. A talisman now. Its edges softening against his thigh like a whispered promise. Nights. He'd sit on the back steps, staring at the stars that wheeled the same indifferent paths his father had charted with a farmer's almanac. Memories flooded unbidden, vivid as the wildflowers pushing through cracked driveways. At 6, Matthew trailing Richard through the fields. Tiny boots sinking in mud. Learning to read the earth's moods by the tilt of cornstalks. Listen close. Son, Richard would say, pressing an ear to the soil. She tells secrets if you're patient. Those afternoons were sacramented under nails. Laughter when a crow startled them both. Then puberty crept in, twisting the boy who sketched wild horses into something Richard couldn't name. The silences grew, punctuated by gruff, "How's school?" That masked the chasm. Clara had been the bridge. Her laughter like wind chimes in July heat. She'd find Matthew's hidden journals, dog-eared pages of boys with eyes like oceans, and slip him books Giovanni's room, wrapped in plain brown paper. Stories save us. Baby, she'd murmur, kissing his forehead. When cancer came, aggressive as a prairie fire, it devoured her light, but not her fight. Bedside vigils became confessions. Richard pacing the hall, fists clenched, while Matthew held her hand, reading poetry until her breaths evened into sleep. Promise me you'll live true, she'd whispered one night, her grip fierce despite the 4 lines. For both of us. He had tried. After college, Topeka's rhythm suited him. Wider streets. A bar on Mass Street where flags flew proud and drag queens commanded stages with sequins sharp as wit. There, Matthew found fragments of family, a minter named Javier, who'd fled Mexico as a teen and now ran a shelter for queer youth. His hugs smelling of coffee and sage. Familia isn't blood. Mijo, Javier would say, passing empanadas at potlucks. It's the ones who stay when the world's screaming run. Romance. Though that was trickier terrain. After Ethan, Matthew armored up. There was Ben, the barista with tattoos mapping constellations on his arms. Their dates were stargazing on rooftops. But Ben's ex lingered like a bad harvest, pulling him back. Then Liam, steady as Kansas limestone. A teacher who quoted Auden and dreamed of adopting kids. They lasted 2 years, building a life in a loft apartment overlooking the Kaw River Sundays with pancakes. Lazy fucks tangled in sheets. Whispers of forever. But Liam wanted rings. Kids. The white picket line Matthew couldn't sell himself. I'm not ashamed. He'd told Liam one rain-lashed night. But I'm tired of pretending it's easy. The breakup was civil. A door closing softly, leaving Matthew adrift in echoes. Now, back in Elmwood, the farm called like a siren's song laced with thorns. Richardsville had unlocked not just land, but ledger's debts to the co-op. Equipment rusting in the shed. Yields dipping from droughts no one could pray away. Emily cornered him one afternoon in the kitchen. Flour dusted from pie crusts. Her nurse's scrubs swapped for an apron that screamed domestic defiance. You gotta take your half, Matt. Mom can't run this alone. And I'm chained to shifts at the hospital. Her eyes, so like their father's, pleaded. He meant it as a hand up, not a slap. Matthew nodded, but doubt gnawed. What did he know of silos and subsidies? His world was data points, not dirt. Yet driving the back roads that evening, windows down to taste the cooling air, he felt the pull a chance to reclaim what rejection had stolen. At the old swimming hole, where he'd once skinny dipped with Tommy under moonlit dares, he stripped to his boxers and dove in. The water shocked cold, washing away years. And for the first time since the will, he laughed free, unfiltered. That night, Clara gathered them for stories by the fire pit, sparks dancing like fireflies. Emily shared tales of hospital heroics, her voice steadying on the edge of tears. Clara spoke of Richard's youth courtship dances at the Grange Hall, letters folded into paper cranes she'd found in his war surplus trunk. He was tender once, she said, eyes distant. War in Korea hardened him. But you three, you melted him daily. Matthew listened, the dollar now on a chain around his neck, hidden under his shirt like a locket. As embers died, his phone buzzied a text from an old flame. Not Liam, but Alex, the photographer he'd met at Pride 3 years back. Alex, with his easy grin and camera that captured souls, not poses. Their fling had been summer lightning road trips to the Flint Hills. Bodies pressed in motel sheets. Conversations deep into dawn about art and ache. Alex had moved to New York for gallery shows. But the message read, heard about your dad. Flying in tomorrow if you'll have me. Need a +1 for this family circus. Matthew's heart stuttered. Alex vibrant. Unapologetic. The one who'd taught him vulnerability wasn't weakness. Typing back felt like leaping. All the ones. Gate codes 4721. Dawn broke golden. And with it, a plane's hum on the horizon, carrying not just a lover, but possibility. Alex's arrival was chaos wrapped in charm. His duffel slung over one shoulder. Curls tousled from the prop plane's turbulence. A bouquet of wild sunflowers clutched like a shield. For the matriarch, he declared, thrusting them at Clara with a bow that drew her first real smile since the funeral. Emily sized him up over coffee wary at first, then thawing when Alex pulled out his phone, showing portraits of queer families in the city, dads with daughters at ballet, moms holding hands under rainbow arches. Stories worth telling, he said, and Emily nodded, passing the creamer. Matthew watched from the sidelines, heart swelling at the ease of it, Alex folding into their rhythm like he'd always been the missing puzzle piece. They stole moments in the barn, hay-scented kisses that tasted of second chances. Alex's hands mapping Matthew's scars with reverence. You're braver than you know, he murmured against Matthew's neck, fingers tracing the chain where the dollar hung. Coming back here. That's poetry. But bravery cracked under scrutiny. At the church potluck, Elmwood's ritual of grief turned communal feast, whispers slithered like smoke. Pastor Hale, Richard's fishing buddy, clapped Matthew's shoulder with false bonhomie. Heard about the will. Son, your pa was old school. Time heals. The words landed like barbs. And when Mrs. Greer from the co-op cornered him by the Jell-O salads, her voice syrup sweet, pray on it. Dear, The Lord's got plans. Matthew's temper flared. My plans are fine. Thanks. And Dad's was his truth flawed. But final. Alex diffused it with a grin, arms slipping around Matthew's waist in casual claim. Mind if I snag him for a dance? Tradition calls. They escaped to the parking lot, leaning against the truck as fiddles wailed from the hall. Understars pricked like promises. Alex pulled out his camera, vintage Leica, all brass and heft. Pose for me. Not the mask, the man. Flash popped, capturing Matthew's unguarded laugh. The way his eyes crinkled like Richard's in rare joy. Back at the farm, nights deepened into confessions. Clara, bundled in Afghans, shared letters Richard had written but never sent, yellowed pages from Matthew's college years, ink smudged with what might have been tears. I failed you, but pride swells for the man you're becoming. One read. Matthew traced the loops of his father's script, forgiveness blooming tentative as spring shoots. Emily confessed her own secrets, a crush on her roommate in nursing school, fears of the town's judgment. You're my hero, Matt. Showed me it's okay to bend. Yet tension simmered. The farm's foreman, old Zeke, who'd worked for Richard since the war, grumbled about city influences over fence mending. Debt's loan bank calls about loans. Yields projected low from last summer's hail. Matthew dove in, poring over books by lamplight. Alex sketching irrigation maps beside him. One evening, as thunder rumbled distant, Zeke cornered them in the equipment shed. Boy, this land's traditional. Don't need your kind changing it. The slur hung, ugly as rust. Matthew's blood boiled, but Alex stepped forward, calm as a lens shutter. Our kind. Zeke, I've seen your wife's quilts at the fair stitched with love that don't judge thread. This farm's about legacy, not labels. Zeke deflated, mumbling retreat, and Matthew pulled Alex close after, their embrace fierce against the storm's growl. You fight fair, he whispered. Teaches me. The turning point came midweek. A letter from Mr. Ellis, Richard's safety deposit box, unmentioned in the will. They drove to Wichita in the old Ford, windows cranked against August heat. Alex's playlist of folk tunes, Woody Guthrie crooning about hard travels filling the cab. The box yielded treasures, Richard's purple heart, faded photos of him and Grandpa Harlan arm in arm at VFW dances, and a journal, leather-bound, entries in Richard's blocky hand. Pages chronicled the unspoken, Matthew's birth, a squalling miracle with his ma's eyes. Coming out. Heart broke tonight. Praying for strength to love right. Clara's diagnosis. If I go first, tell him I'm proud, no more hiding. The final entry. Dated a month before the stroke. Watched Matt's pride post on Lenesmelin with friends. Real joy. That's my boy. Dollars my way to say it without words failing. Tears came hot in the bank vault's hush. Matthew folding against Alex's chest. He knew me. He choked. All along. Alex held him, steady as oak. Knew and loved. Now live it. Returning, they shared the journal at dinner, Clara's hands shaking as she read. Emily hugged it close, vowing to frame a page for the mantel. That night, rain lashed the roof. But inside, laughter echoed stories of Richard's pranks, Clara's dances, Matthew's city escapades retold with Alex's flair. As thunder rolled, Matthew realized grief wasn't a thief, but a teacher, unearthing roots deeper than he'd imagined. With the journal's revelations still warm in their veins, Matthew and Alex threw themselves into the farm's revival, turning mourning into momentum. Dawn patrols became ritual, Matthew checking irrigation lines, Alex snapping shots of dew-kissed fields for a documentary pitch, Harlan Roots, reclaiming legacy. Emily joined weekends. Her scrubs traded for jeans, teaching them wound care for the soil as surely as patience. Clara watched from the porch, her smile a sunrise after eclipse. But legacy tangled with loss. Old clients balked at the new direction, whispers of Matthew's lifestyle, souring deals at the co-op. One afternoon, as they loaded hay bales into the truck, a supplier from Salina pulled up. Face thunderous. Heard Harlan's gone rainbow. Can't ship to that. Matthew's jaw set. Dollar chain glinting in the sun. Ship or not. We're here. Fields don't care about flags. Alex filmed the standoff. His lens a shield, capturing the man's retreat in reverse lights. Evenings brought balm. Alex cooked paella in the cast-iron skillet. Saffron threads like golden threads weaving them closer. Over wine by the fire. They dreamed, expanding the farm to organic co-ops. Queer-friendly agritourism. A bed and breakfast where stories like theirs bloomed. Your dad's land. Your heart. Alex said. Fingers interlaced. Perfect plot. Kisses followed. Slow and sure. Bodies mapping forgiveness in the guest room's creak. Yet shadows lingered. A call from Topeka, his boss. Offering condolences but hinting at family leave extensions. Matthew paced the kitchen. Phone hot in his hand. I built that career on your data. Matt. But roots pull hard. Staying Mint uprooting Alex's city pulse. Leaving Mint abandoning the half-life Richard had reclaimed. Sleepless. He slipped outside. The dollar cool against his skin. Whispering to stars, what would you choose? Dad. Dawn brought clarity your collision. Zeke. Nursing coffee on the steps. Grunted an olive branch, saw the journal. Your pa wrote, about me to save my ass in Korea. Oh him. Oh you. The thaw cracked open talks of crop rotation. Zeke's gruff wisdom blending with Matthew's analytics. By noon, they'd sketched a plan, drought-resistant seeds. Solar pumps funded by Alex's grant contacts. Pride's Echo arrived via Mila package from Javier. Rainbow flags and a letter. Build your table. Familia. Invite the world. They strung the flags from the silo. A beacon against blue skies. Neighbors trickled by. Curious as cats. Mrs. Greer with pie. Pastor Hale with questions that softened into stories of his own closeted uncle. Elmwood. Slow as seasons. Began to shift. Romance deepened in stolen breaths. One night, after a hail scare sent them hunkered in the cellar. Adrenaline surged into passion walls rough against backs. Breaths mingling with earth scent. I love you. Alex gasped. First time spoken plain. Matthew echoed it. Heart full as harvest. But love tested true in trials. Emily's shift turned nightmare patient. Homophobic rant echoing Richard's old echoes leaving her shattered on their doorstep. They held her through sobs. Alex brewing tea. Matthew sharing journal pages like talismans. Clara's health faltered then. A cough lingering into chills. Doctor visits blurred into scans. The word remission of fragile truce. In her hospital room, monitors beeping like hesitant heartbeats. She gripped Matthew's hand. Stay? Baby. Make this home for all of us. Tears fell. But resolve hardened. He called Topeka, resignation tendered. Future planted here. Alex stayed. His camera chronicling the pivot fields greening. Family mending. One evening, as sunset bled orange over acres, he proposed not with rings, but a print, Matthew in the furrows. Dollar chain aglow. Captioned heir to more. Marry me. Not for show for us. Matthew's yes was a vow, sealed in soil and stars. But fate, capricious as Kansas winds, wasn't done. A storm brewed. Not of clouds, but courts a distant cousin contesting the will. Claiming Richard wasn't right in the head at signing. Papers flew. Lawyers circled like crows. Matthew's world tilted. The dollar now evidence in a war over worth. The cousins' challenge hit like a twister, ripping through the fragile piece they'd stitched. Harlan Kin from Oklahoma, Uncle Ray, Richard's brother, a oil rig roughneck with a grudge as old as bad blood, filed from Tulsa, alleging undue influence, senility, the works. My brother's mind was muddled. His affidavit sneered. That dollar. Proof he disinherited the boy. Court dates loomed in Wichita. Depositions dredging ghosts. Matthew's nights fractured into strategy sessions. Alex poring over precedents on his laptop. Emily pulling strings at the hospital for character witnesses. Clara, home now on oxygen, rallied with stories. Ray always envied Dick's land. This ain't about you. Matt, it's greed in overalls. Zeke testified first. His drawl steady. Richard Harlan sharper than attack till the end. Wrote that will himself. By lantern light. But Ray's lawyer twisted it, Zeke's war stories into dementia tales. The journal into forgery fodder. Publicity stung worse. Elmwood Gazette ran a blurb. Farm feud, legacy, or lunacy. Whispers at the diner turned to stares. Old allies wavering. Matthew drove aimlessly one rain-slashed afternoon. Tires hydroplaning on back roads. Radio crackling with talk shows decrying family values under siege. He pulled over at the swimming hole. Dove and fully clothed. Water a baptism of fury. Surfacing. Gasping. He screamed at the skyraw. Primal until Alex's truck lights pierced the downpour. Found him there. Shivering on the bank. Alex wrapped him in a blanket. No words needed. Back home. They burned the affidavit in the fire pit. Ashes scattering like curses lifted. We'll fight, Alex vowed. With truth. Not teeth. Their love anchored the nights of fierce tenderness. Bodies entwined as if to ward off the fray. Trial week dawned crisp. Courthouse steps thronged with locals. Some bearing signs. Harlan Heartland for Matthew. Inside. The Judhea stern woman with silver braids eyed proceedings sharp. Ray took the stand. Burly and bluster. Dick called me. Rambled about the boy being unnatural. That video. Coerced. Lies landed like punches. But cross-exam cracked him, phone records empty. Motives unearthed in old land disputes. Matthew's turn gutted him. Under oath. Voice steady as plow lines. He recounted the will's reading. The video's grace. That dollar wasn't rejection, it was recognition. My father, flawed as fields after frost, chose love over legacy. He unclasped the chain, holding it aloft. George Washington's face catching light. This proves I'm his son, equal in every furrow. Gasps rippled. Alex's eyes shone from the gallery. Clara testified last. Wheeled and frail, but fierce. Richard loved Matthew like breath. Wrote letters I hid, fearing they'd break him more. This challenge. It's theft of spirit. Her words hung. A hymn. The judge recessed. Reconvened swift, will upheld. Cost to Ray. Cheers erupted outside. Hugs from strangers passed her, hail, clasping hands. Mrs. Greer pressing cookies. Victory tasted bittersweet. The farm secured, but scars fresh. Ray slunk back to Tulsa. But not before a letter. Sorry. Nephew. Pride's a blindfold. Matthew burned it unread. Choosing forward. With settlement dust settling. They broke ground on expansion's greenhouses for heirloom tomatoes. A welcome center with Alex's photos lining walls. Richard's journal opened to a page of pride. Matthew knee-deep in earth. Emily and Clara laughing amid blooms. Romance flourished in the rebuild. Alex's show in New York beckoned. But he deferred. Our story's here. Unfolding. They married quiet. At the farm under harvest moon, Clara officiating with a justice of the peace. Emily as witness. Zeke grumbling blessings over cake. Vows exchanged by the silo. flags fluttering, in furrows and frames. I choose you. Winter whispered in. Clara's cough easing into carols. Holiday lights strung the porch, drawing Kin Javier flying in with tamales. Topeka friends with queer carols. Stories circled the tree, Richard's hidden tenderness. Matthew's city triumphs. Futures woven bright. Yet depth demanded darkness. One eve, snow blanketing fields. Clara called Matthew to her room. Time's short. Baby. Promise you'll forgive fully, not for him. For you. He nodded. Throat tight. Holding her as breath slowed. She slipped peaceful. Dawn painting her face gold. Grief renewed. But roots held. Funeral small. Burial beside Richard, 2 stones side by side. Love's quiet testament. Matthew scattered wildflower seeds over both. Whispering. Rest easy. Folks. We've got the harvest. Spring unfurled tentative. Fields greening as grief softened to glow. Matthew and Alex navigated widowhood's wake, Clara's absence a hollow in every room. Her rocker empty by the window. Emily moved in temporarily. Her presence a bridge, shared suppers of her chili. Late talks on the porch about legacies left. Mom saw you heal Dad's wounds. She said one twilight. Fireflies winking. Now we carry it forward. The farm bloomed under their hands. Solar panels gleamed on barn roofs. Funded by Alex's doc, short clips of Matthew telling. Voiceover Richard's journal words. Pride swells for the man you're becoming. Screenings in Topeka drew crowds. Queer farmers nodding, kin networks forming. Co-ops queer-led sprouting like cover crops. Zeke mentored a new hand. A trans kid from Wichita fleeing home. Teaching tractor reins with gruff grace. Land, don't lie. Love deepened roots. Mornings. Alex's camera captured Matthew's quiet rituals, coffee on the steps. Dollar chain glinting as he sketched sunrise over acres. Their intimacy evolved. Not just fire but hearth, lazy Sundays in bed. Planning adoptions. Dreaming of little ones running furrows. 2 dads. One stubborn plot. Alex teased. Tracing Matthew's jaw. Nights. They danced slow in the kitchen to Caltry's horn. Bodies synced like seasons. But echoes lingered. Raised defeat bred backlash, anonymous letters in the mailbox. Slurs scrawled on silo, Sodom's soil. Sheriff chalked at vandalism. But fear coiled. One night. Tires crunched gravel late. Matthew grabbed the shotgun, Richard's old Remington, heart hammering. Floodlights revealed not threat, but Pastor Hale. Rain-soaked. Bearing a pie and plea. Folks are scared of change. Son. But I read your pa's letters, hid in church archives. He confessed doubts. Found grace in you. The package, more unsent missives. Richard's hand evolving from rigid to reverent. Words washed wounds. Saw you at Pride. Holding a sign love wins. Damn if it ain't true. Matthew wept then. Alex holding vigil. They shared with Emily, who framed them beside the journal. A gallery of grace on the mantle. Community shifted slow. Co-op meetings welcome Matthew now. His data driving yields up 20%. Mrs. Greer hosted a supper. Her table rainbow-hued with flags beside the cross. Stories spilled, her nephew. Out and proud in San Fran. Quiet nods to hidden kin. Elmwood. Once monolith. Cracked into mosaic acceptance, not thunder. But steady rain. Adventure called midsummer. Alex's gallery show in Chicago beckoned a week away. But Matthew tagged along. Farm handed to Zeke and Emily. City pulsed electric. Skyline kisses atop Willis Tower. Gallery walls alive with their farm portraits, viewers tearing up at the dollar's tail. A critic penned, Harlan's lens, where queer love tills American soil. Offers flowed, book deals. Speaking gigs but home pulled strongest. Back in Kansas. Harvest frenzy bonded them. Combines hum dawn to dusk. Dust devils dancing. Laughter over cold beers as stars wheeled. One eve, amid golden stubble, Alex knelt again not proposal, but promise, rings plain gold, engraved with $1 more. Forever's our yield, he said. Matthew's yes echoed vows past, sealed in earth's embrace. Winter's hush brought bounty. Adoption papers filed for a sibling pair siblings like them. Scarred but sparkling, Mia, 7. With Clara's curls. Jamal, 5. Richard's grin. Home study passed. Farmhouse prepped with bunk beds. Story hours planned. First meeting at the agency, tiny hands in theirs. Trust tentative as sprouts. But joy jarred with jolt. A fire lightning struck barn. Flames devouring hay and tools. Sirens wailed. Volunteers swarmed Zeke, hosing flanks. Pastor Hale hauling hoses. Lost the structure, but saved the horses. Soot-streaked hugs in dawn's ash. Insurance covered rebuild. Community barn raisings planned. Hammers as healing. Through it, Matthew wore the dollar proud. Visible now conversation starter at markets. Talisman at trials. It's love's currency, he'd say. And eyes softened. Rebuild rose resilient. Barn beams hewn by hands from town queer and straight. Young and gray. Swinging hammers to folk tunes on a boombox. Mia and Jamal arrived mid-frame. Wide-eyed at the spectacle, daddies build houses. Alex laughed, hoisting Jamal to nail a shingle, while Matthew spun Mia in dust devils. Emily chronicled with her phone. Caption, Harlan hands, stronger together. Clara's spirit whispered in every knot. Richard's in the level lines. Family wove tight. Mornings. Chaos of cereal spills and backpack hunts. Evenings. Bedtime tales Richard's journal spun into adventures of brave boys loving bold. Mia sketched rainbows over tractors. Jamal bossed toy combines with Zeke's drawl. Alex's camera immortalized, pudgy fingers in soil. Matthew's eyes crinkling at their giggles. This is the plot twist Dad scripted. He'd murmur. Dollar warm against chest. Challenges cropped up. Gentle as weeds. School pickup stares and Elmwood whispers about those two dads, but Mia's fierce, my daddy's farm love. Shut them soft. Jamal's questions cut deeper. Why two moms in my book? But we got none. Bedside talks followed. Truths tender, families bloom different. Bud. Ours. Extra roots. Therapy sessions with Javier's referral helped. Play-Doh hearts mending fractures. Alex's doc premiered at Sundance Proxy in cake-standing ovation. Tears tracking cheeks. He got $1, trended quiet. Queer media buzzing. Podcasts inviting Matthew. Shares spiking farm visits. Tourists trickled, couples hiking trails. Families picnicking under flags. Revenue greened. Funding a queer youth camp cabins named for Clara. Fields for Richard. Romance rekindled sparks. Date nights stolen. Picnics at the swimming hole. Swimsuits shed under stars. Bodies rediscovering in water's hush. Still my wild card. Alex breathed. Waves lapping secrets. Anniversaries marked with Art Alex's portraits. Matthew's poems etched in wood. Tensions tested. Cousin Ray resurfaced. Not with suits, but sobriety. AA meetings unearthed regrets. A Tulsa apology delivered in person. Hands extended over fence. Saw the film. Your pod be proud. Matthew clasped. No words wasted forgiveness, a gate swung wide. Ray stayed for lunch. Jamal climbing his knee. Bridges built in bites of pie. Storm season struck savage tornado touchdown shearing fences. Scattering livestock. Sirens howled. Family huddled in cellar, Mia's whimpers. Jamal's brave hugs. Alex's story steadying. Dawn revealed wreckage cows wandering. Silos askew but neighbors swarmed, trailers hauling feed. Hands mending wire. Pastor Hale led prayer circle. Rainbow cross raised high. In the mending, Matthew found sermon. At co-op town hall, he spoke unscripted. My father left $1 for being gay, not spite. But stake. It claimed me. Equal. We've all got hidden wills, loves unspoken. Truths buried. Dig 'em up. Plant 'em proud. Applause thundered. Hands shaken. Elmwood's pulse quickening. Summer solstice brought ceremony, farm festival. Lanterns lit for lost ones. Tables groaned with potluck jello salads beside empanadas. Fiddles mingling with DJ beats. Dances swirled. Emily with a bow from the hospital. Zeke two-stepping misses. Greer. Kids chasing glow sticks. Matthew and Alex slow dance center. Rings catching firefly light. Cheers rising. As night deepened, Matthew climbed the silo dollar aloft like a flag whispering to winds, thanks, Dad, for the start, the sting, the story. Below, lives bloomed family. Farm. Futuria testament to tears turned till. Yet depth demanded one last dive. Dreams haunted Richard's face. Video flicker stern. Morphing to smile. Waking sweat slick. Matthew confessed to Alex. Miss the fight sometimes. Makes peace feel fragile. Alex pulled him close. Fragile's fertile. Grows the real. Harvest crowned it bountiful. Bins overflowing. Bonfire feast followed. Stories circling. Mia's first school art show. Jamal's soccer goal. Emily's engagement news. Laughter pealed. Fire crackling a chord. Autumn's gold gilded the fields. But Matthew's heart turned inward, seeking closure's final chapter. With harvest in, he drove to the cemetery, gravel crunching under tires. Leaves skittering like confetti. Stones stood sentinel, Richards. Etched beloved husband. Father. Farmer. Clara's beside. Light of our soil. He knelt. Dollar chain pulled in palm. Tracing names carved deep. Miss you both. He whispered. Voice cracking on wind. The farm's thriving, queer hands in the dirt. Kids laughing in the barn. Alex. He's my harvest. Tears fell. Soaking earth. That video. Saved me. Forgave you before I knew how. A breeze stirred. Carrying crow's cosine or fancy. It soothed. Rising. He planted bulbs at bases, tulips for spring's return. Roots resilient. Home welcomed with chaos. Mia finger-painting murals. Jamal helping Alex edit footage. Emily's wedding plans strewn like confetti. Dinner that nitros chicken. Richard's recipe was ritual. Toasts to absent chairs. Gratitude's glow. To $1 legacies. Alex raised glass. Eyes locking Matthews. Clinks echoed. Love's libation. Winter wove wonders. Holidays hummed. Tree trimmed with journal pages laminated. Ornaments of sunflowers and rainbows. Gifts practical, new boots for furrows. Camera lenses for souls but heartfelt. Matthew penned Alex a chapbook. Poems of their arc from exile to embrace. Recited by firelight. Kids nestled close, in dollars gleam. We found our dream. Emily's wedding bloomed May fresh. Farm as venue of wildflowers. Silo backdrop. Matthew walked her. Arm linked. Whispering Clara's quips. Vows exchanged under arch of cornstalks. Guests toasting with cider from their press. Dance floor pulsed. Zeke cutting rugs. Kids twirling. Alex pulling Matthew into waltz world, blurring to two. Fatherhood flowered fierce. Mia's school player as brave explorer drew cheers. Matthew's camcorder capturing pride. Jamal's questions evolved. Daddy Matt. Why'd Grandpa leave $1? Story spun gentle. To say you're enough. Just as you are. Love's the real treasure. Eyes wide. Hug tight, lessons landed light. Alex's book deal sealed. $1 legacy. A queer farmer's will memoir laced with photos. Journal excerpts. Launch in Wichita packed. Lines snaking block. Signings turned therapy circles. Strangers sharing shames shed. Royalties seeded scholarships queer youth in AG. Hands in soil without stigma. Challenges came soft now. Drought nipped heels. But pivots prevailed, rainwater systems. Crop swaps. A kid's bully ton at recess, Mia home tear-streaked prompted school talk. Matthew and Alex presenting families like ours. Slides of diverse kin. Principal nodded. Curriculum shifted ripples in Elmwood's pond. Anniversary 10th crept sly, decades since Will's wound. They retreated to the swimming hole. Picnic packed. Kids with Emily for sleepover. Water lapped lazy. Bodies bare and buoyant. 10 years of us. Alex murmured. Tracing scars. From $1 to this fortune. Lovemaking followed. Unhurried as rivers reaffirmation in every touch. Spring's renewal brought revelation. Pregnancy test positive Ezra Gates gift. A baby brother brewing. Ultrasounds showed tiny heartbeat. Family swelling with wonder. Names brainstormed. Richard for middle. Clara's light and legacy. Festival that year swelled. Booths of local queer artisans. Panels on inclusive AG. Bonfire tales towering. Matthew keynote. Dollar displayed. This bought more than land, it bought belonging. For my father, who learned late. My mother, who loved loud. My husband, who frames truth. My kids, who live it free. Applause roared. Hugs enveloped Pastor Hale front row. Tears tracking. As sun dipped, Matthew stood silo top again. Family below, Alex's grin. Kids waves. Emily's arm round her wife. Wind whispered approval. Fields undulating endless. The dollar, once tear-stained, now shown talisman proof that from rejection's sting blooms radical grace. In Elmwood's heart, a boy once exiled tilled triumph, love's will, unbreakable as earth. And in every furrow, tears watered seeds of tomorrow gay. Proud, profoundly whole.